In a development that has sent ripples of astonishment through the highest echelons of the British monarchy, fresh reports emerging from trusted palace sources indicate that King Charles III has taken a series of decisive and highly symbolic measures concerning his two young grandchildren, Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana, the son and daughter of Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. What began as muted conversations in the corridors of Buckingham Palace has rapidly escalated into one of the most consequential chapters in the ongoing saga between the King and the California-based Sussexes. According to multiple well-informed insiders, the monarch has personally intervened to postpone the processing and issuance of British passports for both children, an action that, on the surface, appears administrative but is being widely interpreted as a deliberate and pointed statement of intent. Archie, who was born in the United Kingdom in May 2019, would normally have faced no obstacles in obtaining a British passport as a birthright citizen. Lilibet, born 2 years later in Santa Barbara, California, would ordinarily qualify through her father's British citizenship. Yet the King's alleged directive has brought the entire procedure to a halt. Royal commentators and palace veterans describe the move as far more than a clerical postponement. They see it as a calculated boundary-setting exercise by a sovereign who believes the institution he now leads must be protected from further dilution. In an era when Charles has repeatedly spoken of a slimmed-down monarchy focused on efficiency and public service, extending full institutional privileges to grandchildren who live abroad and whose parents have publicly distanced themselves from royal duties appears, to him and his advisers, inconsistent with that vision. The Sussex camp, according to those familiar with their thinking, is said to be reeling. Friends of Harry and Meghan describe a mixture of disbelief, hurt, and mounting fury at what they regard as a punitive and deeply personal slight aimed not merely at logistics but at symbolically pushing their children further away from their British heritage. Some within their circle have gone so far as to characterize the passport delay as an attempt to render Archie and Lilibet second-class members of the family, effectively treating them as outsiders despite their place in the line of succession, currently 6th and 7th, respectively. Compounding the tension is a parallel and even more seismic revelation. King Charles is reportedly determined that neither child will ever be granted the princely or princess titles to which they became technically entitled the moment their grandfather acceded to the throne in September 2022. Under the 1917 letters patent issued by King George V, the grandchildren of a sovereign in the male line are automatically styled as His or Her Royal Highness and Prince or Princess. When Queen Elizabeth II was alive, she issued additional letters patent in 2012 ensuring that all children of Prince William's eldest son would hold those titles from birth. No such special provision was made for Harry's children. Upon Charles's accession, however, the 1917 rules should have applied automatically. Yet palace sources now say the king intends to withhold formal recognition, effectively rewriting centuries-old precedent to align with his modernizing agenda. This twin-pronged approach, blocking passports and withholding titles, has been likened by some observers to the recent actions of Queen Margrethe II of Denmark, who in 2022 stripped 4 of her grandchildren of their princely status to create a more compact monarchy. The difference, of course, is that the British crown carries vastly greater global visibility and historical weight. What might pass as pragmatic housekeeping in Copenhagen lands as earth-shaking drama in London. In Montecito, the response is reportedly evolving by the day. Sources close to the Sussexes suggest that Harry and Meghan are now giving serious consideration to a dramatic countermove of their own, abandoning the Mountbatten-Windsor surname entirely in favour of Spencer, the maiden name of Harry's late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. Such a change would represent one of the most profound symbolic ruptures imaginable. Mountbatten-Windsor has been the official surname of male-line descendants of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip since 1960, when it was created as a blend of Philip's adopted surname and the House of Windsor. Dropping it would sever one of the last remaining formal threads linking Archie and Lilibet to the current royal house, while simultaneously anchoring their identity more firmly to the memory and legacy of Princess Diana, a figure who herself became a symbol of independence from institutional constraints. For Harry, the emotional resonance would be unmistakable. He has spoken repeatedly of his desire to keep his mother's memory alive for his children. Adopting Spencer would allow him to do so in the most public and permanent way possible, free from what he and Meghan have described as the controlling influence of palace men in grey suits. It would also, inevitably, be read by many as a retaliatory act, an assertion that if the palace chooses to marginalize their children, they will reclaim agency over their family's identity on their own terms. Across the Atlantic, the British press has wasted no time framing the developments as the latest, and perhaps most serious, escalation in a feud that began with the Sussexes' departure from senior royal duties in early 2020. Tabloids that have long been critical of Meghan have hailed the king's reported firmness as overdue evidence of backbone, arguing that titles and privileges must be earned through service rather than inherited by absentee relatives living in Californian luxury. More sympathetic outlets, meanwhile, have portrayed the moves as cruel and vindictive, suggesting that two small children are being used as pawns in an adult power struggle. Public opinion, both in the United Kingdom and the United States, remains fiercely polarized. Polls conducted in the immediate wake of the leaks show a nation divided almost exactly down the middle. Roughly half approve of Charles, drawing a clear line between working royals and those who have stepped away, while the other half view the withholding of titles and passports as an unnecessarily harsh punishment that risks permanently alienating the king from his younger son and only grandchildren on that branch of the family tree. Behind the scenes, courtiers are said to be bracing for a prolonged period of turbulence. Travel arrangements for the Sussexes, particularly any future visits to the UK, could become logistically complicated without British passports for the children. Security provisions, which are easier to coordinate when individuals hold British citizenship documents, may also be affected. Some diplomatic observers have even speculated that the absence of British passports could create awkward protocol moments should the children ever accompany their parents on official overseas engagements representing American interests. Perhaps the deepest wound lies in the personal realm. Insiders who have known King Charles for decades describe a man who, beneath the public veneer of stoicism, feels profoundly let down by the trajectory of his relationship with Harry. Where Queen Elizabeth II opted for patience and quiet diplomacy in the face of the Sussexes' criticisms, Charles, advised by a smaller, more resolute inner circle, appears willing to take actions his mother deliberately avoided. Whether this is interpreted as necessary toughness or familial cruelty depends largely on which side of the Atlantic one stands. As the story continues to unfold, historians already placing these events in a broader context of monarchical evolution. For the first time in centuries, a British king is actively shrinking the circle of those who enjoy the full rights and recognitions of royal status. In doing so, Charles is forcing a reckoning with questions that previous generations could sidestep. What does it mean to be royal in the 21st century? Should ancient privileges automatically extend to those who choose a life far removed from duty and scrutiny? And at what point does the preservation of an institution cross the line into the rejection of family? For Archie and Lilibet, two children who have thus far known little of the public storm swirling around them, the consequences will be lifelong. They may grow up with the knowledge that their grandfather, in seeking to protect the monarchy's future, drew a line that placed them, through no choice of their own, on the outside looking in. Alternatively, if their parents follow through with the Spencer surname, they may come of age embracing an identity rooted more firmly in their grandmother Diana's legacy of compassion and independence than in the rigid structures of the House of Windsor. Whatever the ultimate resolution, one thing is beyond dispute. King Charles III has ignited a controversy that reaches far beyond palace walls. It touches on identity, belonging, race, duty, forgiveness, and the painful complexities of family when one branch of that family also happens to be a 1,000-year-old institution. The coming weeks and months will reveal whether these bold moves strengthen the monarchy Charles has inherited or whether they deepen a rift that may never fully heal. For now, the world watches and waits as an ancient crown navigates the most modern of family crises. Share your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe for more breakdowns.